Welcome to my YouTube channel Basketball Official. The digital clock on the scoreboard, a silent arbiter of fate high above the footprint center in Phoenix, bled from 0:01 to midnight, and in that infinitesimal transition, the entire narrative of a season of legacies and of a fiercely contested rivalry was irrevocably rewritten. The final horn was not merely a sound, it was a seismic event, a release of pressure built over 40 minutes of brutal, beautiful basketball. A roar that seemed to suck the very air from the building before replacing it with a chaotic mixture of ecstasy and despair. The Phoenix Mercury had defeated the Minnesota Lynx 88-87, but that single-point margin was a deceptively simple summary of an epic that contained multitudes. This was not just a game. It was a Shakespearean drama played out on hardwood, a collision of titans where every possession was a sonnet of struggle, every defensive stop an act of defiance, and every made basket a dagger to the heart of the opponent. It was a game that had everything. The aging legend turning back the clock, the young superstar announcing her arrival on the grandest stage, tactical chess matches between two of the finest minds in the sport, and a finish so improbable, so heart-stopping, that it would be etched into the annals of WNBA history not as a highlight, but as a legend. The atmosphere in the footprint center from the opening tip was less that of a sporting event and more of a tribal gathering, a collective inhalation of hope and anxiety. This was an elimination game, a win-or-go-home crucible that forged ordinary contests into legendary ones. The Lynx, the methodical, disciplined machine coached by the venerable Cheryl Reeve, entered as a slight favorite, their season defined by a suffocating defense and the relentless, efficient brilliance of Nafisa Collier. The Mercury, helmed by the mercurial Nate Tibbetts, were a constellation of explosive talent, a team that lived and died by the sword, with incomparable Diana Taurasi, now in her mid-40s but still possessing the heart of a lion, and the dynamic scoring of Sophie Cunningham, and the inside presence of Brittany Griner. The stakes were palpable, a physical weight in the air that settled on the shoulders of every player, coach, and fan. You could feel it in the way the crowd roared at the first defensive stop, a sound that was more desperate plea than celebratory cheer. The first quarter was a feeling-out process conducted with the force of sledgehammers. Minnesota established their identity immediately. They were patient, almost surgical, working the ball through Collier in the high post. On their first possession, Collier caught the ball, faced up, used a subtle screen from Alana Smith to lose a half step on her defender, and drained a silky smooth 18-foot jumper. It was a statement of intent. We are here, we are composed, and we will execute. Phoenix, by contrast, answered with chaos and fire. Sophie Cunningham, her signature intensity etched on her face, came flying off a pin-down screen from Griner, caught the ball on the wing, and without a moment's hesitation, launched a three-pointer over the outstretched arm of Kayla McBride. The swish was clean, a direct rebuttal to Minnesota's method. The quarter became a study in contrasts. The Lynx ran their sets with military precision, their ball movement a series of crisp, purposeful passes that sought to exploit the smallest of gaps. McBride would curl off a double screen, catch and shoot in one fluid motion. Courtney Williams, the crafty veteran point guard, probed the lane, her eyes constantly scanning, looking for the open woman. Phoenix's offense ran with a different rhythm, a jazz improvisation to Minnesota's classical symphony. It was predicated on spontaneous combustion. A Griner post-up would draw a double team, leading to a kick-out to Taurasi, who would pump fake, drive, and then dish to a cutting Cunningham for a layup. The pace was frenetic, a style designed to disrupt Minnesota's defensive structure through sheer velocity. Defensively, the Mercury were aggressive, switching often and trying to use their length to bother passing lanes. Griner, a mountain in the paint, altered nearly every shot that came her way, her mere presence causing Lynx drivers to second-guess their attacks. The lead changed hands 5 times in the first quarter, a sign of the relentless tug-of-war to come. As the buzzer sounded to end the period, with Phoenix holding a narrow 24-22 lead, the crowd was already breathless. This was not a game that would be won early, it was a war of attrition. The second quarter saw the emergence of a new protagonist and a deepening of the strategic battle. With the starters taking a brief rest, the benches entered the fray, and this is where Minnesota's depth, a hallmark of their season, was supposed to shine. But Phoenix had a counterpunch, a whirlwind of energy and sheer audacity named Sug Sutton. Sutton, a guard playing with a chip on her shoulder, immediately changed the game's energy. She hounded Minnesota's backup ball handler, Bridget Carlton, full court, her defensive pressure like a persistent gnat. She forced a turnover, picked up the loose ball, and raced the length of the court for a layup, her speed a blur. On the next possession, she did it again, intercepting a lazy cross-court pass and taking it uncontested to the rim. The footprint center erupted, the decibel level rising with each Sutton exploit. She was a spark plug, igniting a fire under her team and the crowd. Seeing her team's composure waver under Sutton's onslaught, Cheryl Reeve did what great coaches do. She adjusted. She called a timeout, not to scream, but to recalibrate. Out of the timeout, the Lynx made a conscious effort to attack Sutton on the other end, to make her work on defense and potentially get her into foul trouble. They also switched to a zone defense for a few possessions, a surprise tactic designed to disrupt Phoenix's drive and kick rhythm and force them into longer, more contested shots. The zone worked temporarily, forcing 2 consecutive shot clock violations from the Mercury, a testament to its disruptive nature and the Lynx's disciplined execution. Meanwhile, Nafisa Collier returned to the game and immediately reasserted her dominance. She was a problem that Phoenix had no clear answer for. She scored on a graceful up and under move against Griner, then stepped out and hit a three-pointer on the next trip down. She was playing a complete game, her basketball IQ on full display as she directed traffic on both ends. But just as Minnesota threatened to build a lead, the old warrior, Diana Taurasi, answered the call. This is what legends are made of. It wasn't a flurry of scoring, but a masterclass in control. She backed down the younger, quicker Courtney Williams in the post, using her strength and veteran savvy to create just enough space for a fall-away jumper. Swish. On the next possession, she came off a screen, drew 2 defenders, and fired a no-look behind the back pass to a wide-open Brianna Turner under the basket for an easy 2. The play was breathtaking, a moment of genius that reminded everyone why she is the GOAT. The game was being played on a razor's edge, with both teams trading runs and counter-runs. The halftime buzzer sounded with Minnesota clinging to a slim 47-45 lead. The locker rooms were not places of rest, but war rooms. For Minnesota, the message was clear: maintain composure, handle Phoenix's pressure, and continue to run the offense through Collier. For Phoenix,